It's obvious where we have our exit signs, so in case of an emergency, please proceed through one of the doors marked exit. And they're proudly marked across the back of the room. If you've parked in front of Kohl's or CVS, I would suggest you move the car to a spot that doesn't hinder their shopping sprees. They get the little businesses on the other side get a little upset if we're not good neighbors to them. In the event of a medical emergency, we do have a room just across from our social hall. It has a sign on it, and it says it's our medical area. Please turn off the ringers to your phone. God will hear you through your prayers. I wanted to mention to you that part of our requesting or requiring all of our congregants to wear a badge with their name on it is we're doing that so it's easier for all of us to greet you by name. It's hard to remember all the new faces. We're so delighted everybody's part of our congregation, but we would like to let you know and walk up to you and know who you are. So if you don't have a badge, if you would please call the office, we will make sure that one is gotten to you. It's also a security measure. It's part of our security working, our plan, so that we know who's in the building and who's not wearing a badge. Then we know that you're new to our community and we'd like to welcome you and answer any questions that we have. We're trying to update all of our files because a lot of you have moved, changed phone numbers, changed email addresses, and we'd like to keep you current on all the things that are happening here at CNT. So if you haven't received a call, or you have from one of our volunteers, but were afraid to answer the questions, please call the office with any updated information so that we're able to let you know what's going on. That's our pleasure. This time, I'd like to call up the Sisterhood Board, who will be our candle lighters for this evening.
The time is now. We've gathered round. So bring all your gifts and bring all your burdens with you. No need to hide. Arms open wide. We gather as one to make a makom kadosh. We come to tell, we come to hear, we come to teach, to learn, we come to grow and so we Time is now. Sing to the one. God's presence is here. Shekhinah, you will dwell among us. We'll make this space a holy place. So separate, so home, rejoice every soul
The first mitzvah in the Torah is let there be light. So we are commanded, in everything you do, be a menorah, a bringer of light. Live with honor, act with integrity, do your work with passion, and the radiance of your deeds will live after you. May our ideals burn bright, forever unextinguished, and may we live our lives like the flames we kindle, always stretching upward, striving for the good, reaching for you. Source of blessing, eternal our God, you fill the universe with majestic might, teaching us holiness through sacred obligations, giving us the mitzvah of bringing light on this festival.
Here I am, so poor in deeds. I tremble in fear, overwhelmed and apprehensive before you to whom Israel sings praise. Although unworthy, I rise to pray and seek favor for your people Israel, for they have entrusted me with this task. Therefore, God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, God of Sarah, Rebekah, Rachel, and Leah, Adonai, Adonai, merciful, gracious God, who inspires awe, I pray to you for success on my path. I pray for myself and my community. Do not hold them responsible for my wrongs and offenses. May my deeds cause them no shame, and may their deeds cause me no shame.
Shofar,
We begin with the shofar blast. Michael Mayer, please come forward. Page 15. At the new moon, at the full moon, for our feast day, sound the shofar, for that is the law of Israel, the way of the God of Jacob. Praise God with the blast of the shofar.
Yisrael Rachamim Tekiah.
Hold that thought. All right, listen. Some sounds are worth waiting for. Okay? This is one of them. Choir, let's have a reprise of that song. Can we do a reprise? Mazel tov. That was good. Ay, ay, ay. Writing my memoirs. Please be seated.
No. Baruch.
Well, Shana Tova, everyone. Listen, we wait a long time to hear that shofar. We wait a little longer. It's good to see everyone here. To begin with the new year with a sense of anticipation and a reflection not only of the year that was, but an eager anticipation of the days that are yet to lie ahead. And so we pray, O God, for a sweet new year, a year of happiness and peace, of joy and of goodness for us all as a congregation and for all of us as a family. And let us say, Amen. We continue on page 19. Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, yehi ratzon שנזכה לברותך בשנת 5,070 אלוהי עולם מאות ושמונים. אלוהי עולם ברך אותנו ואת כל בית ישראל בחידוש שמנו בשמחה ובשלום בנחמה ובאומץ לב. Our God and God of our ancestors, may we know your blessings in the year 5,780. Eternal One, bless us and the whole house of Israel with renewed life, happiness, and peace, comfort and courage, resilience and strength. May the words of our heart be acceptable to you. In the new year that stretches before us, we are forever grateful for the gift of life. We rise for the Baruch Hu. Prayer should not be recited as if a person were reading a document. Rabbi Acha said, a new prayer should be said every day. Page 23. The quickening of the moon calls us to return as we gather seam dwellers on the edge of the earth. As the sun lowers itself into the sea, introspection rises. A sliver cracks the heart of the firmament, the vast blackness, an invitation to write ourselves anew.
Baruch atah Adonai Hamariv Aravim.
Blessed are you, Adonai, creator of the twilight and dusk. Love beyond all space and time, your love enfolds your people, Yisrael. We receive it in your teaching, your gift of Torah, sacred obligations, discipline, and law. So let us speak these teachings when we lie down and rise up and find joy forever in your Torah and mitzvot. They are the very essence of our life, ours to ponder and study all our days. May we never lose or be unworthy of your love.
Baruch atah Adonai Ohev Amo Yisrael.
We accept God's sovereignty and reverence, treating others with love, devoting ourselves to Torah. May this be our will as we witness. Let us rise.
And all members of our 7th grade B'nai Mitzvah class, please come forward for Ve'ahavta.
Listen, Israel, Adonai is our God, Adonai is one. Blessed is God's glorious majesty forever and ever. Please be seated.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levacha v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'adecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'eleh asher anochi mesatvecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibar
continue on page 32. We read together. Truth and faith, these are fundamental to our existence. God alone is their source, and we are Israel, a people of God. Our sovereign saves us from tyranny, redeems us from its violence through countless wonders, from its brutality through great feats beyond measure. We are Israel, a people of God, the giver of life, who would not let our feet give way, the maker of miracles for us against Pharaoh, of signs and portents in the land of Egypt, the one who brought our people Israel from its midst to enduring freedom. Witnesses to this heroic might, the people thanked and praised God by name, freely accepting the reign of heaven. Then Moses and Miriam and all Israel sang to you this song of utter joy. Page 37. Darkness settles slowly across the horizon. The new year rises before us, its fragile moon awaiting our embrace. Heaven and earth entwine in their annual dance of recreation. A fissure appears in the firmament tonight, an entranceway into new beginnings. Out beyond the swales, the sea expands and contracts, keeping time to the thrumming of the universe. Under this Rosh Hashana sky, the path before us is uncertain. All we can do is hold each other tight as we make our way home.
Israel,
on page 42 as we all rise. The words of our prayers must not fall off our lips like dead leaves in the autumn. They must rise like birds out of the heart into the vast expanse of eternity.
Elohei Avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Leah,
continue praying pages 48 through page 70, silently at our own pace. As you conclude your prayers at that time, be seated. Page 72 is our Misha Berach. So embedded in our prayer services, the Misha Berach, that we forget that it was 20, 25 years ago where it was never a part of our Reformed service. But somehow when Debbie Friedman started this tradition, when she wrote a beautiful Misha Berach, and subsequent to that version, other composers have written beautiful Misha Berachs as well, it touched a responsive chord within everyone. We realize that one of the reasons that we come to prayer is to feel heard, and also to feel that we can say what is within our heart. When it comes to Misha Berach, all of us have people in our lives for whom we are saying prayers. So we think of people who are in need of our prayers. We pray for their physical strength and healing and well-being. And for those who face the challenges of the heart and the struggles of the mind, of addiction too, we pray for them as well. And for those who are caregivers, we ask that God grant them strength and patience, that they might minister to those that they love with a full sense of will. If you would like to say the names of people in your lives, please stand and say their names, as many names as you would like. Simply say their names. And now we as a community, we stand in solidarity one with the other, arm in arm, as we join in singing Misha Berach.
Refa'enu Adonai v'nerafeh, Hoshienu v'nivashea, El karov l'cho karav, ach karov l'reav yishor. We pray for healing of the body. We pray for healing of the soul, for strength of flesh and mind and spirit. We pray to once again be whole. Oh, please heal us now. Refuat ha-nefesh, refuat ha-guf, refuat shalema. Ehelu refana. Oh, please heal us now. Refuat ha-nefesh, refuat ha-guf, refuat shalema. Heal us now. Heal us now. Hoshia et amecha, uvarech et nachalatecha, uraim v'nasaim et ha'olam. Misheberach avotenu, misheberach imotenu, Ana Adonai Hoshiana. We pray for healing of our people. We pray for healing of the land.
At the heart of our service is Avinu Malkeinu, in anticipation of that melody that touches our heart and soul. We ask for those who have the honors of accompanying the art curtains for this prayer to come forward. Yvonne and Jerry Gordon, Gwen and Jim Mason and Flora Mason, Joanne and Lee Bernick, Barbara and Barney Tabak. If you'd come forward and just stand on either side of the art curtains. Page 74. Please rise. Avinu Malkeinu, strong was the faith of generations before us. In exile, they proclaimed enduring hope. In the show of persecution, they affirmed a transcendent love and compassion. Ours is a different age, less confident and certain, more tentative in its trust.
There are many who say to the works of their hands, "You are our gods." But when our worship centers on our own creations, we feel less gratitude, more doubt and despair. This is the paradox of our spiritual lives. We grow smaller in self-exaltation, nobler when we reach for you.
On this night of return, let us find the humility to come close to you and open ourselves to your presence, for you are absent only when we fail to make room for you in our hearts, distant only when we turn away from you. Now, as others have done before us, let us overcome doubt and speak these words of affirmation.
We call you Avinu. As loving parent, forgive our wrongs and failings, accept us in our own human frailty.
We call you Malkeinu. As sovereign of our souls, help us rise from our brokenness to build a world of shalom.
To this vision, we offer ourselves anew.
Avinu Malkeinu, Shema Koleinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chatanu lefanecha. Avinu Malkeinu, Chamol aleinu.
This sermon began to write itself. Oi. Oi. Come on, everyone. Let's do it together. Oi. It's been one of those years. Some years we look back and we utter a little oi. But this year, we can't help but begin with a big oi. If you can remember a year with such a roller coaster of emotions, we think of the political climate and the bickering back and forth and we say, oi. We think of the mass gun shootings and we say, oi. We think of the environment and the fires and the floods and we say, oi. It is as if the Unatana Tokev, who by fire and who by has taken a life of its own. But for us as a Jewish community, by far the biggest oi began on October 27th, a few weeks after the new year began, and there was a mass shooting at Tree of Life Synagogue. 11 people were murdered, 7 were injured. It was the deadliest attack on the Jewish community in the United States ever. There have been acts of vandalism over the years, here and there throughout America, and somehow, as upsetting as those are, this was beyond the pale. Dead Jews in a synagogue. The imagery could not help but cause reverberations of fear, recollections of the Holocaust, insecurity among us as to our status in a country that we had reached, so we thought, the pinnacle of power. And so we should feel secure, but we do not. And every year people ask me as we approach the holy days, Rabbi, hey, you know those holy days? Are they early or are they late? Not this year. This year, everyone said, and I mean this daily, Rabbi, are we safe? What kind of security do we have at the temple? And just when it seemed maybe things would calm down a bit, we had Poway. And then about 8 weeks ago, there was a nut in our city who targeted the ADL, the LGBT, and what he thought was a synagogue in Las Vegas. And thank goodness law enforcement apprehended him. But tonight is Rosh Hashana and not a gathering to discuss security protocols. We've done this at many other avenues, and although it's on our minds tonight, on one of our holiest nights, I can't help but reframe our sense of urgency and the symbolism of the most powerful oi of all, the sound of the shofar. Tradition defines the sound of the shofar as a sound that wails. It is meant to arouse us out of our slumber. It is meant to arouse our hearts, and when we hear the broken sounds, it is to remind us that our lives are not yet whole. The New Light and Dor Chadash congregations rented space at the Tree of Life Synagogue, and the man who blew shofar last year for the New Light Synagogue will be silent this year because he was murdered on October 27th. But I can assure you, his shofar will not be silent. It will not be silenced. It will not be mute. In fact, that shofar, like our own, like shofarot around the country, will join together in one loud tekiyah, one loud wail that will reverberate throughout the world. For we are saddened, but we will not let anti-Semites define who we are. We are chastened, but we are not cowed. And while we take every measure we can to protect the safety of Jews, we know that we are here tonight, and every time we come to shul, to protect the safety of Judaism. And so when I, as a rabbi, ask, are we safe? I don't just ask it in the context of our physical safety. That goes without saying. I do so asking whether we are safe as a religion, as a people, as a way of life. And this oi is just as loud, if not larger, than any I have heard in a long time. And while threats to our physical nature are frightening, What are Jews without their Judaism? I read a few weeks ago that some geneticists did a study. Think of it as a mass ancestry.com study. And what they discovered after a study of people of Hispanic and Portuguese descent, that some 200 million could have Jewish ancestors. 200 million. Imagine what the world would be like if even a fraction of these people had been able to lead Jewish lives. But that is not the fate that history dealt us. Persecution, assimilation has taken its toll. We are a resilient people. We will survive. We have survived pharaohs, pogroms, Nazism, and those who seek to destroy Israel, where half the world's Jewish population now resides. But I do not question the survival of the Jew. I know there will always be Jews. The question is whether we will remain Jewish. For what is a Jew who does not practice Judaism? He is like the messenger who has forgotten the message. We are a people of the book who have forgotten how to read. We are a resilient people who have survived, who, battle-worn, stop to say, now what? Are we safe? I do not think we are safe. I think for far too long we as a people have taken for granted our Jewishness. We built our institutions, we gave to our Jewish philanthropies, we celebrated our holidays. We were different than a few generations ago who felt insecure and were compelled to change their last names, or another generation that felt the pain of exclusion from colleges, jobs, country clubs, and neighborhoods because of their faith. Comfortable we became, and we relished in our Jewish relish. You know, schmear. Lox and bagels, knishes and kugel, matzah balls and kreplach. We became proud, ethnic, and gastronomic Jews. And two, we became proud cardiac Jews. There wasn't a sad story about a Jewish community that needed our help, that we didn't reach into our pockets and know that it was our responsibility to help. We helped the young state of Israel become one of history's great success stories as we gathered Jews from over 100 countries to forge a Jewish homeland. We fought off the Nazis, and though we lost 6 million, we declared that the 614th commandment was not to give Hitler a posthumous victory. We would not only survive, but thrive. We rescued the Jews of the former Soviet Union, over 1.5 million of them, and the Jews of Ethiopia, who became cut off hundreds and hundreds of years ago, who came on wings of eagles to the promised land. But now, it's time to rescue ourselves, to invest in our own community. By some estimates, there are 80,000 Jews in Las Vegas and Henderson who call this our home. And of this number, only about 7% are affiliated with Jewish life. It is not because they are afraid. This statistic was true long before the recent shooting. Ironically, if anything, the shootings have brought to mind the fact that they are Jewish. Living in a world in which they thought they were physically safe, now they begin to challenge that notion, realizing there are people in the world who hate us simply because we exist. No, 7, 8%, and this is perhaps generous, is a number that reminds us that we are not safe, and that the shrill sound of the shofar must raise us from our slumber to do something about it. We must invest financially in our synagogue and our Jewish institutional life to ensure that our missions remain strong. We must invest in programs and new ideas which lower the entry cost to Jewish life, which has become too expensive for this next generation of Jewish families. We must continually remind families that are intermarried that our house of worship is welcoming and appreciative of their desire to affiliate with us. And we must pay down our debt to get our own financial house in order so that our future will thrive for generations yet to come. In the big picture sense, we need what I would call a Marshall Plan for American Jewry. In the local at-home sense, we have a lot to do right here at home, and we need everyone's help. We who come tonight are the choir, and so it is our voices that will be heard the loudest. But it must be a voice that is more than just a shrill one, more than just an oi. It must be one that is much more melodic and compelling. The truth is, as worried as I am, Jewish leaders in every generation have worried. For worrying, well, that too is Jewish. What do they say about a Jewish telegram? Start worrying, message to follow. Every generation of Jews has felt challenged. The 4 questions of Passover talk about 4 kinds of children, and out of the 4, only one, the wise son, reminds us that we are safe. But the fact that we have always worried is not to gainsay the reality or urgency of the concern. In fact, I would argue each generation is not crying wolf. They are simply crying. And it is because of those tears that we remind each other of our responsibility and need to step up and act. In our Shabbat Siddur, there is a beautiful statement of faith by a man named Edmund Flegg. Edmund Flegg, remember that name. In his poem, he writes, "I am a Jew because the faith of Israel demands of me no abdication of the mind. I am a Jew because in every place where suffering weeps, the Jew weeps. I am a Jew because at every time when despair cries out, the Jew hopes. I am a Jew because above the nations and Israel places man and his unity. I am a Jew because above mankind, image of the divine unity, Israel places the divine unity and its divinity." That poem, now in our Siddur, we read it every Shabbat morning. It's become a part of our statement of faith. But what you may not know is the backstory as to why Edmund wrote this poem and when it was written. Written in 1927. It began as a letter to his unborn grandson because he was worried about the future of Judaism. And before he wrote this poem, he did a little introduction, a letter to his unborn grandson. And the words that he wrote then could be written today. Listen. People ask me why I am a Jew. It is to you, my grandson, I want to answer. When will you be old enough to listen to me? My elder son is 19, the younger 14. When will you be born? Perhaps in 10 years' time, perhaps in 15. When will you read what I am writing? In 1950 or thereabouts? In 1960? Will anybody be reading in 1960? What will the world look like then? Will the machine have killed the soul? Will the mind have created for itself a new universe? Will the problems that trouble me today mean anything to you? Will there still be Jews? I believe there will. They have survived the pharaohs, Nebuchadnezzar, Constantine, Muhammad, the Inquisition, and assimilation. They will know how to survive even the motor car. But you, my unborn grandson, will you feel yourself a Jew? People say to me, you are a Jew because you were born a Jew. You neither willed it nor can change it. Will this explanation satisfy you if, though born a Jew, you no longer feel one? When I was 20, I too had no lot nor part in Israel. I was persuaded that Israel would disappear and that in 20 years' time people would no longer speak of this people called Israel. 20 years have passed and another 12, and I have become a Jew again. So obviously that I am asked, why are you a Jew? What has happened to me can happen to you, my child. If you believe that the flame of this people, Israel, is extinguished in you, watch and wait. One day it will burn again. This is a very old story, repeated in every generation 1,000 times. Our people, Israel, it has seemed, must die. And 1,000 times she has lived again. I want to tell you how she died and lived again in me, so that if she dies in you, you in your turn can feel her born in you once more. So enamored am I by this poem that I have every confirmation student write a version of their own. I have them frame it and keep it, give it to their parents, and I take another copy and I have it in a binder that we keep in the ark. For the past 10 years, every generation of confirmation students declares why they are a Jew. But tonight, what I find equally compelling is the concern by which Edmund Flagg felt he needed to write the poem so that his children and his children's children would know not only what it was to be a Jew, but what it was to be Jewish. And that out of his insecurity about our people's future, he responded with resilient optimism. Can we who live today, who have identical concerns, not respond the same way? Oh, one more thing. When he wrote this poem in 1927, he was attending the Third Zionist Congress. And they were gathering to establish the modern state of Israel, which for them was a far-off dream. And yet, since the time of Joseph, our people has always survived because of its dreamers, people who could shape the future and the very destiny of our religion, people who are not distracted by fear or fatalism, but rose to the challenge of optimism and the belief that the world and the world of our children is better off when it is embraced by Jewish beliefs and values, that we would be more successful guided by those values than by people who somehow vaguely just want to make the world better. We have a compass. We have a spiritual GPS. We're so much ahead of Moses. Now, let us not lose our way. The shofar's voice calls us to uphold values that are anything but vague. And we should proudly instill them and teach them and model them because our children and our grandchildren are watching. They will find their own path, but they do not have to walk alone or in darkness. The prophet Isaiah declared, "You shall be a light to the nations." And the 20th century philosopher Abraham Joshua Heschel put it best when he taught, "We are God's stake in human history." And I do not think this statement is hyperbole. Tikkun Olam, the Jewish duty to repair our broken world, arises from the observation that the world is fundamentally out of order, that everything is not okay, that despite their pervasiveness, corruption, inequality, and violence, is each a divine injustice, a serious breach in the way God intended things. Our mission is to repair or restore the world to the way God wants it to be. And for these reasons, each of us has said in one way or another, I want to be another link in a chain that stretches back 100 generations. So picture your life as a bridge between the past and the future, a bridge over which the survival of our people will pass. What anchors you on either shore? We might say that our Yiddishkeit, our Jewishness, is safe deep within our hearts. And it's great that we feel Jewish in our kishkis, but I don't think feeling Jewish is enough. Judaism is meant to be lived and expressed. Therefore, we must be able to articulate in concrete and compelling language why it's important to us. Our children will decide, no, they're already deciding whether they care enough to build their own bridge. Today, this year, think about how you might explain to your children or grandchildren or to your friends why it matters to you to be the next link in the chain. While you came tonight and while you'll come to Kol Nidre. Perhaps what I'm asking of you seems difficult right now. I mean, isn't that why we send our kids to Hebrew school? So they can learn how to become Jewish? If pressed to articulate what Judaism means to us, we often speak of family gatherings on holidays and of a general affinity for ethics. Both of those are important. But if our Judaism is synonymous with Western liberal humanism and family get-togethers, then we might as well close up shop. Leon Zeltzier, the literary editor of the New Republic, and one of our foremost Jewish intellectuals, was adamant that being Jewish is something unique. He said, to be a Jew is not to be an American or a Westerner or a New Yorker. To be a Jew is, well, to be a Jew. It is its own category, its own autonomous way of moving through the world. I love that statement. Each of us should aim to articulate exactly why it matters that we move through the world in this singular, autonomous way. The richness of Jewish life is rightfully ours, so let us proudly name our values as Jewish. You know, almost every Shabbat morning on this very bima, we pass the Torah from one generation to the next, from grandparents to parents to child. And though the moment is inspiring, oftentimes it's only merely symbolic. Handing a child a scroll does not do much. If we want our child to be Jewish, then we must learn to pass that scroll every day. The Ve'ahavta prayer that our children chanted this evening makes it clear we need to speak the vocabulary of Torah and Jewish values in our homes, and when we go out and when we lie down and when we rise up. For raising Jewish children is not something that happens on a single morning. It's a daily project. Elie Wiesel once said, life is not made of years, but of moments. And my takeaway of being in the rabbinate for some 35 years and studying American Jews is that Jewishness is built from intense moments of engagement. Jewish education can take place with one's family at summer camp or in Israel. But to be educated Jewishly is to be immersed in a community where knowledge and feeling are married and where values are not simply espoused, but are lived. And so I'm also proposing tonight that we need to enter into a community conversation, whether we're parents or not, in which we share with one another our reasons for being Jewish. I believe there is great power in your answers. Those answers will build our bridge. In particular, I want to ask those of you who are not born Jewish to contribute. For you have decided to join us, either officially through conversion or unofficially by helping to create Jewish families. And you have much to teach us. What compelled you to do this? All of our answers, I'm sure, will educate and inspire. So what do I want you to do? Holidays are often family times when we sit around and do what Jews do best. We kvetch, oi, and we eat. And when you take a moment, I want you to pause and schmooze and to fill in the blank to that statement. I am a Jew, ... I am a Jew. And make your own statement. It's as simple and as profound as that. You can take it to silly lengths. I'm a Jew because I like bagels. Or you can take a moment and dig deeper into your heart. I think your children might be surprised by your answers, and you theirs. I think, like Edmund, in sharing with grandchildren, you just might be helping them shape their future. And so, if you have a moment, in the foyer, we will be collecting your responses for public viewing during this holiday season. We want you to go to that board and write down your statement of faith. Here's my answer to the question. I am a Jew because in a world too often devoid of meaning, Judaism gives my life meaning. Each of us has kept being Jewish simply because we want to be. This Rosh Hashana, I ask you to ask yourself why. Why did you come here tonight? What do you find in Jewish life that is so precious you can't let it go? And when you have your own answers, share them with people whose Jewishness matters to you. Speak of them in your home and when you are on your way, when you lie down, and when you rise up. And let those answers be the foundation for our own Marshall Plan in which we revitalize the Jewish community in the United States of America, and yes, in Las Vegas and in Henderson, to ensure the vibrancy of what it means to be Jewish here in our own community. Let our oys turn to joy, our sighs of concern to sighs of relief, knowing that our future is secure, that we are indeed safe. Shana Tova u'Metuka.
A little earlier in the sermon, the rabbi said that we were the choir, in addition to this choir. So it's a little call and response. So I sing, you sing. We return, we return, we return, we return, we return, return again. We return, we return, we return, we return, we return, return again and again to love.
Page 88 is the Aleinu. For the honor of accompanying the art curtains as they are opened, Janie and Jeff Gale, and Harrison Gale, Susan Fine and Max Bilka, Joyce Max, Karen Mack Goldsmith, Marilyn Mack, Douglas and Alana Cohen. If you'd all please come forward. page 82. Please rise.
ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים.
We continue on page 90 with the Mourner's Kaddish. Over the past few weeks, our community has lost too many. We think of them now: Leonard Fruchter, Irving Goldstein, Barbara Kaufman, Janet Goldstein, Charlie Sipes, Lonnie Poindexter, Greg Feynman, Julia Graber, Miriam Klosty, Rose DeAndrea, Esther Leviton Anderson. We think of the Yortsites of Lillian Appel, Seymour Altman, Henrietta Cohen, Glenda Holland Cornstubble, Rose Cowan, Leonard Crystal, William Croft, Martha Davis, Joan Dreyfus, Goldie Figlars, Leon Friedman, Pedro Garcia, Joseph Goldshine, Celia Goldstein, Jacob Goldstein, Harry Corlick, Leonard Gottlieb, Ann Hellman, Robert Hurwitz, Donna Higo, Robert Luyenga, Helene Holder, Chris Jensen, Melvin Creation, Jerome Leviton, Donald McBride, Benjamin Mendelson, Pepe Molaski, Joseph Polinsky, Joseph Premack, Ron Richardson, Betty Rosenberg, Herman Steiner, Hilda Superstein, Saul Weil, Ruth Nanny Weingart, Herman Weinstein. If you would like to recall those who are not mentioned for Kaddish or Yortzeit, please stand and say their names as my eyes meet yours. As we think of all these and others who have touched our hearts, we rise to recite our Kaddish prayer. Yitgadah v'yitgadash shemei rabbah, Bialma divrach hirute biamlich malchute. Achayachon biomechon chayedachol be Israel. Bagalav zman kari v'imru amen. Yeheshme rabba mevorach leolam olmei olmaya. Yit barach v'ish tabach v'it ba'ar v'it ramam v'it naseh. V'it hadar v'it eleh v'it halal shmei dekusha barichu. Leila ve'ela mikol birchata v'shirata. Tush bechata v'nechemata. Dami ram bialma v'imru amen. Yeheshlam rabba min shamay v'chayim. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav. Huya aseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. V'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru. Amen. May the source of peace bestow peace on all who mourn. May we be a source of comfort to all who are bereaved among us. And we say, Amen. May be seated.
Thank you, Rabbi. I'm pleased to introduce the members of our board of directors who are Bima guests this evening. Del Acosta, our ritual trustee, Barney Tabak, VP of Membership, and Debbie Levy, our board treasurer. On behalf of all of our CNT family, thank you for your service to the temple. The planning and coordination of our high holiday services involved a dedicated group of individuals who put in endless hours, time, and effort. I would like to thank Rabbi Axelrod and Cantor Hutchins for leading tonight's services and giving us an uplifting message and a lot to think about over the next few weeks as we go forward into the new year. Thank you to Ricky Reinhardt, our accompanist and choir director, our CNT adult choir, Dave Basisis, Davey, thank you for sharing your musical talents and making our service truly special. No Rosh Hashana service would be complete without the blowing of the shofar, and we appreciate Michael Mayer for flexing his lung muscles on the shofar tonight and for the rabbi's assist at the last minute. And of course, a special thank you to our sisterhood, ushers and greeters, all our volunteers, Alex Hill and Trevor Ensign, who did a great job with tonight's sound quality, and certainly our temple staff who worked tirelessly to make these high holidays a must-attend event. Please take the time to read the thank you poster in the main lobby as you depart tonight. Now, as we reflect on our past year and look to the new year, let's begin by giving to those in our community who are less fortunate and in need. It is customary that during the high holidays, CNT conducts an annual food drive. Food will be donated to the JFSA food pantry, benefiting hundreds of people. Tonight, when you leave, you will receive a bag with a list of requested food. Please be generous and bring the filled bags back for Yom Kippur. Every month, we have some exciting events and programs, so make sure to read the newsletter and weekly emails for more information. On that note, you won't want to miss our Sukkot family potluck in service on Tuesday, October 15th at 6 p.m. on the Cantor patio directly following Hebrew school. Simchat Torah will be celebrated on Tuesday, October 22nd at 6:15 and feature the Shabbatones. Also mark your calendars for some upcoming temple fundraisers. Our second annual Tikkun Olam luncheon on Sunday, January 26th, honoring Jan Jones Blackhurst, and our spring gala on Saturday, May 2nd. We would love to have everyone participate in these events. I look forward to seeing you all back here tomorrow. The schedule is as follows. 9 a.m. Tot Family Service. Tickets are not required for this service. At 10 a.m., our traditional service and youth programs. If your children are attending the youth program, K through 5, check-in begins at 9:35 in the library. Tickets are required for the traditional service. In the afternoon at 1:30, Tashlik service is at Sunset Park at the Cottonwood Pavilion. Come observe this meaningful and ancient Jewish custom with us. Please bring your own lunch, and we will eat as a community. And don't forget some birdseed or frozen peas or corn or something for the service. If you have any questions, please stop by the help desk in the school office. Finally, our second day Rosh Hashana service will begin at 10 a.m. on Tuesday in the main sanctuary, and no ticket is required for that service. Thank you for being a member of our congregation and attending tonight's service. May you and your loved ones be blessed with a healthy, happy, and prosperous new year. Shana Tova.
Thank you, Don. We have our Kiddush and Motzi. So if I could have our Bima guest join the cantor and tell.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
Please rise for a final benediction. Our God and God of our ancestors, eternal God of all generations, may your presence in our lives this new year renew our spirits and renew our strength. May it be for all of us a good year. May it be for all of us a sweet year. L'shana tova tikatevu techamenu. May you be inscribed and sealed for a good year. Good Gentif.